Hello guys, a very good evening to all of you. So guys, today we're going to start a new web series and it is called as Company Accounts. So guys, under this web series, basically have 3 episodes. Episode number 1, that is chapter number 1, being accounting for share capital. Second episode, second chapter, accounting for issue of debenture. And the third one is guys, accounting for redemption of debentures. Fortunately or unfortunately, this particular chapter is being deleted from your syllabus this year. So effectively, there is 2 episodes that we are going to watch, see, enjoy. Right? So guys, this episode might take a little bit a longer time, probably a month's time to complete it. And the second episode, half of it, or probably less than that. And from the examination point of view, guys, in your term 1, this alone is being included. Accounting for share capital is alone included for your term 1. Whereas accounting for issue of debentures is being included for your term 2. So now guys, we are going to focus only and only on accounting for share capital. And guys, a lot of students have this fascination because you get to know about companies, what is private company, what is public company, what is shares, so that fascination is there with people. So keep that fascination on, guys. Trust me, this chapter is going to be a killer chapter, lot more interesting than what you thought. So please pay 100% attention to all the minute details what we're going to discuss. Initial 3 or 4 classes will be completely theory, but trust me, we'll try to make it as interesting as possible. Now guys, if you remember when we did the partnership chapter, I told you that in India, if you want to do any business, you have to have a form or a body. So what are the various forms in which you can do business in India? The first one being sole proprietorship concern. Then Indian partnership, basically partnership. Third is limited liability partnership. Then you have company. Then you have NPOs such as cooperative societies and trusts. So like that, there are so many various forms. I've taken just a couple of examples here. So what does sole proprietorship says? In sole proprietorship, guys, there is one person who is having the idea to start a business. He's the person who contributes capital to the business. He's the person who runs the entire show. He manages the entire business all by himself, and he is the person who would finally reap all the profits. It's a one-man show where one person does all the work end to end, of course, along with its team members, depending on how big the business is. And he is the person who handles the entire stuff. He's the person who is responsible for all the activities of the business. But every form of businesses, guys, is got certain limitations. Now in sole proprietorship also, guys, you have certain limitation. The limitation could be in terms of capital. Maybe you want to do certain businesses where the capital requirement is very huge, which is not possible to be contributed by one person. So there is a limitation of capital. Second, the limitation could be it could be for the management of the business. Maybe you want to open your branches across the city in multiple places, or you want to open the branches across the various cities in Tamil Nadu, or maybe you want to open all the branches pan India. So with so much of stores being opened, with so much of business expansion, guys, one person handling the entire management is not that easy. So people look up to the business partners who can take the accountability and the responsibility, of managing the business. So there could be a lot of limitations in sole proprietorship, because of which, it gives birth to partnership companies and so on. So after sole proprietorship, guys, after a certain point of level, people look up to partnership business to overcome the limitation of capital. As a single person, I have a limitation, to invest the capital maybe to 10 lakh rupees or 50 lakh rupees or 1 crore. Every person has got limit, depending on your earning capacity, you have a limit. Now what happens is you look up to partnership concern, probably to expand the business. And for expansion of business, guys, sometimes you need capital, sometimes you need managerial, experiences, sometimes you need a technical person, a person who is, specialized in certain, field, and that person can do a lot of value addition to your business. For example, in education system, so I'm into the field of education. So these days, technology in education has evolved very big and huge. With the app getting personalized, customized app coming into picture, lot of features that is being given to the students in the online platform, so that the service can be delivered in much better way. And for me to develop a technology for my business, it could not be possible for me to hire somebody and develop that kind of technology, because it can be very costly activity. Hiring a person, a tech person, could cost me as good as 3 to 5 lakh rupees a month. So I would feel that instead of taking that person as employee, what if I take him in in business on board as a partner? Right? So that is the limitation which we try to overcome from sole partnership concern. Now in partnership also, guys, we have certain limitations. The first one being the minimum number of persons in a partnership concern is 2 and the maximum is 50. Now, if your business demands for partners or business owners more than 15 numbers, then partnership could not be an option. For example, if I want to get into my construction business, where I want to construct, there's a project wherein I have to construct 300 apartments. Guys, you can imagine the amount of capital that is required to construct 300 apartments. It can run in several crores. Sometimes even 50 people are not sufficient enough, to contribute the capital. So you might look up to 100 people or 150 people. Sometimes 500 people who can, join together, pool the capital in such a way that certain projects could be achieved. So that is when the partnership, has certain limitations suffered and people look up to companies. So if you want to think about, adding people more than 15 numbers, more than 50 business partners, then company is ideally the best option for you. Now in companies also, as we progress, guys, we'll get to know there are different kinds of companies, such as 1-person company, there is private limited company, there is public limited company. Again, all the three has got 3 different models, and each of them has got certain limitation which has been overcome by the other one. So guys, are you able to understand why company is there in place? The first limitation of partnership is the number 50. Beyond 50, partnership business is not suitable. That's why you look up to company. Second is, guys, the liability of the partnership is unlimited, which means what? Which means what? If the business is unable to, the assets of the business is unable to pay the liabilities of the business, it can go up to, the bankers can go up to the, personal assets of the entrepreneurs and recover money from that. For instance, this is a balance sheet. Let's say the total assets is worth 60 lakh rupees. Total capital is worth 25 lakh rupees. And total liability is how much, guys? 60 minus 25. 35. Now you are in the process of winding up a company. In the process of winding up a company, what will you do? You will try to dispose all the assets and encash it. You want to convert all the assets into liquid money, either in cash or bank format, so that once the business is closed or before closing the business, you will pay to the third party, and the balance money, whatever is left, owners will take it. Now tell me one thing, guys. If these total assets are sold, is there any necessary or guarantee that you should fetch me 60 lakh rupees? So 60 lakh rupees, yes. When you're trying to sell your business, is it necessary that 60 lakh worth assets which is reflecting in your balance sheet, it would fetch you only 60 lakh rupees? It can fetch more or it can fetch less. What if there is a situation, if it is going to fetch you less money? Let's suppose by disposing all these assets worth 60 lakh rupees, you're able to get only 20 lakh rupees. You sold the 60 lakh worth assets and you're able to encash only 20 lakh rupees. Now guys, what is the liability? What is the exposure that you have? You sold all the assets, and what the money that is left in the business, the money that you could recover from those assets is only 20 lakh rupees, guys. Now there is external liability holders. Let's say this 35 lakh rupees we owe to a bank. Now in case of partnership concern, the liability is unlimited, which means what? To the extent of this 20 lakh rupees, banker will take money from the business. So from 35 lakh rupees, banker will satisfy 20 lakh rupees from the business. What is the remaining outstanding exposure? 15 lakh rupees. What will the banker do? Banker will straight away go to your house, take all your documents. All the obviously partners will have their personal assets. They'll be holding those assets in their personal capacity, their house, their farmhouse, so many things. So now what will happen here is the personal balance sheet. The personal balance sheet of the entrepreneur or the partner will be perused. Let's suppose here there are total assets worth 1 crore rupees. So the banker will try to sell this assets. Now understand, banker has the right to dispose your asset and collect their outstanding liability from yours. They don't need to seek your permission. They have that authority and power because of the concept of unlimited liability existing in the partnership. So this 1 crore worth assets will be sold. Obviously, in case if this personal owner has got certain liabilities, let's say, this is 1 crore worth asset and the liability what is holding is worth, let's say 40 lakh rupees. So what will banker do is, banker will sell the 1 crore worth asset. He realize the money worth 1 crore rupees with him. In that, the first preference will go to whom? This 40 lakh, which is the liability of the owner in the personal capacity. That will be satisfied first. So 40 lakhs, if I minus the balance 60 lakh rupees, out of the 60 lakh rupees, banker will satisfy 15 lakh. From the 60 lakh rupees, banker will satisfy the 15 lakh rupees of the business liability and give the balance to the owner. So from 16 lakh rupees, if I minus 15 lakh, what is the balance? 45 lakh is the balance money which is there with the owner in his personal capacity. Which means what? In unlimited liability, guys, the external liability holders can go up to attacking your personal properties. That is unlimited liability. Now tell me, if there is big investors coming into picture, will investors prefer to invest in a partnership concern? For example, I'm starting a part. Let's suppose I'm doing this, the whole academy stuff in a partnership firm, and I'm looking up to expansion for my business, and I'm seeking investors for my company. Investors will come invest money in my company. Do you think investors will prefer me having a partnership concern when you have the feature of unlimited liability? Which means what? In case if I'm not able to handle the business properly, if something goes wrong, if I'm not able to meet the liability of the business, it can attack the personal properties of the investors as well. So do you think such investors could take risk by investing in my business? So always, if you see any investors investing in any business, it is always either the private limited company or the public limited company. So if you want to attract investors in your business, the option that you look up to is not partnership, not sole proprietorship. It will be companies. Private or public, we can debate depending on the requirement of your business. But yes, you will look up to companies for your option as business. So are you able to understand what is the need to study about and know about the companies?
Sir?
Yes, boss.
Sir, I left the meeting, sir. Can you say where will the 45 lakhs will go?
Which 45 lakhs?
Sir, after the 15 lakhs, the rest amount is 45 lakhs.
Okay, this 45 lakhs, the owner will enjoy this part.
Okay, sir.
Because it's owner money, this 1 crore is belonging to owner. From this 1 crore rupees, 40 lakh, which is personal liability, that will be first given as a preference before the business liability. So the balance amount that is left with the owner is, let's suppose 60 lakh. In that, 15 lakh is the business liability. That will be settled second. And balance money, owner will enjoy.
Sir, and I have one more doubt, sir.
Yes, Brinda.
Sir, the 15 lakhs is... 15 lakhs coming in liability side, no, sir, the 15 lakhs.
Yes.
It will be divided according to the profit sharing ratio, sir.
See, this 15 lakh rupees is the liability of the, business. So let's suppose this is a partnership concern, which is having A and B as a partner. So A and B in their proportionate ratio, they will bear the loss from their personal assets.
Yes, sir. I got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right. So guys, so different forms of doing businesses, we agreed it is sole proprietorship concern. We have certain limitations in sole proprietorship concern. Therefore, we look up to partnership business. Again, in partnership business, there are certain limitations which we discussed now. That is the reason you look up to companies. This is companies. Of course, in between, you have the option of LLP. But since it is not there in a syllabus, I'm not discussing too much about LLP. LLP is something you can say it is between the partnership concern and the companies. So depending on the requirement of your business, you can choose companies or LLP. NPO, obviously, the motive is completely different, because when I talk about sole proprietorship, partnership, LLP, and companies, it's profit motive businesses. NPO is a different. But here, why did I mention NPOs? Because this is also a form of doing business in form of trust or society. Yes, Shrika. I'll discuss about when I come to one-person company. So the question that has been asked is, what is the difference between sole proprietorship concern and OPC? I'll discuss about this when I come to different kinds of companies. Now, guys, coming back. Now, in this company accounts chapter, guys, let's understand what are we going to look at. You'll understand what is the meaning of a company, what is the feature of a company, what is the difference between partnership and the company, what are the various kinds of companies, one-person company, private limited company, public limited company. Then incorporation. Incorporation means what? What is the meaning of incorporation of a company? What is the procedure for incorporation of a company? What is the meaning of share capital? What are the different kinds and classes of share? There's so many things that we'll be learning. So initial few things I'm just running through because you will get a outline about what this, because you are familiar with these terms a little bit. But as and when I proceed now, this becomes technical. So I will not discuss this now. I'll discuss as and when we come across these topics here. So now let's go ahead, guys. Let's understand a meaning and the definition of a company. A company is an association of a person formed and registered under the Companies Act. Now, guys, in partnership, we learned that 2 or more people can join together to do a business. So even partnership is an association. Company is also association, but minimum 2 people have to be there. In partnership, guys, they told that the partnership deed or partnership agreement should be there. The agreement can be oral or writing. It is not compulsory that it has to be only in writing. So they told it is optional. And they told that registration of the partnership with the government is not compulsory. But in companies, guys, the registration of companies is mandated. Which means if you want to start a business under the company's title, you need to get yourself registered under government. And what government here means, we'll discuss in some time. A company is an association of a person which can be formed and registered under the Companies Act 2013. So basically, guys, all of you know that every nature of a business has been governed by respective act. For example, partnership is governed by Indian Partnership Act 1932, which means what? If there is any disputes or any issues with regarding the partnership concern, you look up to the rule book, which is Indian Partnership Act 1932. Same way, guys, here the rule book which is binding on the business or the companies is Companies Act. Companies Act 2013 lays down the rules, all the rules with regard to companies. What is the procedure to form the company? What is the procedure is to run the company? What is the procedure to issue the share? What is the procedure to buy back the share? All these things is detailed extensively in the Companies Act. So the current Companies Act, what we're dealing is with 2013. In 2013, the Companies Act got amended. Before Companies Act 2013, we had Companies Act 1956, which means what? This Companies Act was formed in the year 1956. We kept on using that till 2012. A point came where we felt that the old rules are not applicable in today's scenario. So it was time for us to change. So what they did is, all the rules and regulations which is redundant, useless, which is not applicable to the current scenario, they were dropped. And all the rules and regulations, with the current scenario were rebuilt and rephrased. So the current Companies Act, what we're dealing is recreated or reframed in the year 2013. Are we clear with this? So it is set up by the process of law. It means company is set up by a process of law. In Companies Act, in the rule book, the steps have been laid down. How do you want to form the companies? And those steps have to be followed. A company is a legal person. Legal person. Person here means not natural person. Person here means artificial person. If you remember, guys, when we studied Golden Rule, classification, personal, real, and nominal. In personal, we had 3 categories. One is natural, artificial, and representative. Natural person means are those persons who are created by act of God, created by nature. Artificial person is created by law. So in artificial person category, we have studied that artificial person includes partnership, sole proprietorship companies. So why do they call it as person? Because law says that company, you are a person, but you're not a natural person, you're an artificial person. So it is a legal person not having a physical existence. There's no physical existence as such, the human beings. We are natural person having some physical existence. Artificial person does not have any physical existence. So a company is a legal person not having a physical existence and has a separate legal entity. That is an artificial person separate from its members. Now, in 11th standard, we have studied one concept called as accounting entity concept and a business entity concept. It said that when you account from accounting point of view, the owner of the business has to be treated separately from the business. Business and owner is different. When you do the accounting should be from the business point of view and not from the owner's point of view. The same concept is followed here. The company and the shareholders or the members are treated as two different persons. And the concept here, they've named it as separate legal entity concept. Business entity concept is the same concept as separate legal entity concept. But business entity concept is applicable for sole proprietorship concern and partnership concern. In companies, they're given their own term. The concept is same. The rule that is applicable for business entity concept, same is applied here. But the name here it is separate legal entity concept. Okay, not okay. So a company is a legal person not having a physical existence and has a separate legal entity. That is, it is an artificial person separate from its members and shareholders. Now, the most important terms that we have to understand is what is the meaning of shares? What is the meaning of shareholder? What is the meaning of share capital? These are the three things. People, you have to be very clear with these terms. Can somebody tell me what is the meaning of shares? Before I go ahead and explain it, can somebody tell me what do you think is the meaning of a share?
So the ownership of a company is divided into smaller units.
The ownership of a company divided into smaller units. Okay. This is something very technical from the textbook. The capital of a company is divided into smaller units called as shares. Can it be more simpler way to understand? Shares means what? I don't want capital being divided into so many parts. This is something which is coming from the textbook. In simple layman language, can you tell me what is a share? Share is equal to what?
Part of a whole.
Okay. In layman language, I'll come to technical point. All of you, what you're saying is very true from technical point of view. Layman's point of view. Share is equal to share of profit. Share is equal to share of profit. So how do you get your share of profit? The percentage of sharing the profit is determined by the amount of capital what you invest. In partnership ratio, in the partnership chapter, we understood that the partners among themselves can decide what could be their profit sharing ratio. Depending on, sometimes, depending on who's working more. The person who's working more might take more share of profit. Sometimes it is in the proportion of capital. The person who has contributed more capital will enjoy more share of profit. That rule is applied here. The person who is contributing more capital will enjoy more share of profit. So share is nothing but share of profit. So the profit you will enjoy, the percentage of profit. In partnership, we discuss profit in terms of ratio, fractions. Here we'll be discussing in terms of percentage. For example, 1/4. There are 4 partners, A, B, C, D. All the 3 of them are sharing the profits equally. So can I say it will be 1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4? 1/4 indicates how much in percentage? 25%. So there it is fraction, here it is percentage. So what is share, guys? Depending on how much you invest in the company, you will take your share of profit proportionately. For instance, let's say we are starting a business and that is requiring us to invest 300 crores. Tell me one thing, guys. One single person contributing 300 crores, is it possible? Okay, the student says unless we are Ambanis. Okay, point accepted. 50 people contributing 300 crores. Slightly difficult, no? So that's when you start. Yeah, of course, again, you are next level to Ambanis and Adanis, and maybe, yeah. Right? So 300 crores is required for construction of an apartment. So what we do is we form a group of companies where we pool money from a lot of people. It could be 100 people, it could be 500 people, it could be even 1,000 people. Now, the thing here is that 300 crore rupees. let's suppose there are, for simplicity of understanding, let's suppose that there are 10 people who are willing to contribute this 300 crore rupees. 10 people willing to contribute 300 crore rupees. For simplicity's sake, let's take 5 people. As Ronak says, possible, sir. 5 people, big shots, ready to invest 300 crore rupees. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first person is willing to contribute only 50 crore rupees because that is the maximum amount he can contribute. So the first person is contributing 50 crore rupees. Second person says that 75 crores, not more than that. 75 crores. Third person says that my capacity is, boss, 50 crores. How much so far? How much we need?
175.
125. Fourth one says that my capacity is 100 crores. And fifth one will be 25 crores. Is it summing up to 300 crores? Now the question is that if the company is earning some profit, how this profit will be divided? In what ratio? You cannot have a ratio that is agreed as, as we agreed for partnership. So what is the share of profit here? The logic is very simple. This is my total capital. 300 crores is the investment which you start your business. This is called as share capital. This is called as share capital. 300 crore rupees is the capital of the business. In companies, we call it as share capital. Why it is called share capital? I'll discuss the logic with you next few minutes. Now, the point is how much percentage of holding each one will hold, each one will have. So very simple. Can I say 50 crores? So 50 divided by 300 into 100. How much? How much? Can use your calculator, guys. 50 divided by 300 into 100 is how much? 16.67 percentage. 75 divided by 300 into 100. How much? 22 crores. 22 percentage. 25. 50 divided by 300 into 100. 16 point. 100 crores. 100 divided by 3. 100 into 100. 33.33. The last one is 25. No. 25 divided by 300 into 100. How much? 8.33. If you add all this 5, is it coming to 100%? Please add this all 5 and tell me, is it coming equal to 100%? So what is this, guys? This is your share. This is your share. What is the share? You invest money in the company. You invest capital in the company against which you get a share of profit. You get to be a part of the ownership of that fund. If you look at these people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, depending on the capacity of what money they have, they're investing it in the company. This is company. And once they invest, what are they getting? For your portion, what money you invested, that much you'll get it. So what is the share, guys? You invested some money against which you're getting a piece of cake. That is called a share. Share in simple terms, in layman language, is nothing but share of profit. Which is nothing but, again, technically what you said. This capital is broken into number of smaller units. 300 is the total capital of the company. It is broken into smaller parts. Smaller parts called as shares. So you give money against which they'll give a document telling that, my dear friend, you've invested 25 crores in my company. Therefore, you are owner to the extent of 8.33%, and you will take up the profit of the company to the extent of 8.33%. So you give money, you get the right in share of profit. So share is nothing but profit. You're sharing the capital, and in what proportion you're sharing the capital, in the same proportion you'll share your profits. And here, guys, in the company, we don't use the word profits. The final owner who's getting the profit, The profit is replaced by the word called as dividend. For sole proprietorship business, you can call it as profit. For partnership concern, you can call that as a profit. But in companies, you don't call it as a profit. We call it as dividend. Now, again, the below two pictures depicting the same thing. If this is the total share capital of the company, you contributed this portion and you've taken your share. You contributed for this, you wanted this red portion of share. For that, you contributed so much. If you want green portion of share, you have to contribute so much. That is called a share. So are you clear what share means? Yes, all of you clear what share means. The next question is, who is a shareholder? The person who's contributing the capital, who is getting the share from the company, he is holding the share. So for example, this is Mr. A. Mr. A has invested this money. This is Mr. A. Basically, this is Mr. A who's giving the money. And this is company who's telling that take your share. Now, who is holding the share document? Mr. A will hold this document. He's the holder of the share. He's called as a shareholder. Share of profit holder. Who's holding the share of profit? The person who's contributing the capital is called as a shareholder. We don't call it as an owner here. In partnership in company, the person who's contributing the capital is called as owner. Here it is called as a shareholder. In Companies Act, guys, everything is spelled or mentioned in a very polished way. We don't want to follow business entity concept. We don't want to follow accounting entity concept. We want separate legal entity concept. Companies, more sort of polished way of dealing. We don't want to be called as owners. We want to be called as shareholders. So that gives a class. We want to be called as members, not owners, man. Owners is like partnership will have owners, man. We are companies, man. So we should be, classy. So it is called as shareholders and members. Shareholders is otherwise called as members. So are you clear with the meaning of shares and shareholders? Now, what is share capital? Very simple. The total capital of the company, is called as a share capital. Now, why it is called as a share capital? If you remember, when we opened a balance sheet of a sole proprietorship concern, in liability side, in capital side, what do we write? For example, this is a business of Ram. So what do we write? Can I say Ram's capital? How do we represent capital? When you did in 11th, if it's business of Ram's capital. If it is business of Sham, it's Sham's capital. So always you had the owner's name attached to the, as a prefix to the capital. Let's talk about partnership concern. In partnership concern, what did you do? When you prepared the balance sheet, you had again Ram's capital. If Ram is a partner, you had Ram's capital account. You had Sham's capital account. You had Mohan's capital account. But in your business, where it is a company, you will not have it as an individual person's name. Why because there could be 5 people, there could be 50 people as the shareholders, there could be 500 people as the shareholder, there could be even 5,000 people or 50,000 people, and beyond that as a shareholder. Is it possible to note down all the names, all the 50,000's name on the face of the balance sheet? If you do that, your balance sheet will run in several thousands of pages. So here what they do is they don't call it as a individual person's capital. They call it as a share capital because the capital is shared by multiple people. This capital of 300 crores is shared by multiple people. That is why they call it as a share capital. The capital which is shared by multiple people, it is called as a share capital. Sir, then does it mean that companies will not have the list of names who has contributed to the capital? Of course it will have, but it will not be mentioned in the balance sheet. They'll have a separate register called as a shareholders register, members register. In that, they'll mention Priyansh has given 100 crore rupees as capital. Mayank has given 200 crore rupees as capital. So in the shareholders list, in the shareholders register, how much capital has been given by how many persons, list will be maintained. But that will not be forming part of balance sheet. In balance sheet, you will not make a note of that. Are you clear? In balance sheet, on the face of the balance sheet, you will find only one thing, which is called as a share capital, and that to 300 crores. That's it. So are you familiar with these 3 words now, guys? What is the meaning of share capital, and shareholder? Are you getting a feel of it? Moving on further, guys. Moving on further. Now, it normally has a share capital. It means company. Company normally has a share capital divided into units called as share. smaller units called as shares. The owners of which is known as members or shareholders. The person who's contributed capital, technically in our layman's language, we call them as owner. In companies, we call them as shareholders or members. It being separate from its shareholders, insolvency or death of a partner does not affect the continuity of the company. That is, the company continues even if the members or shareholders become insolvent or dies. Now, the reason why they've introduced the separate legal entity concept is that, one is that once the separate legal entity concept is coming into picture, the company is different from the owner. So the rule that follow here is owners may come and go, but the company should go on forever. If there are 50,000 people, if there are 50,000 shareholders, if any one is dying, because of that person dying, if the company is getting affected, what will the remaining 49,999 people who have invested in the company feel about? For example, let's take the example of Reliance Limited. It was earlier, created by late Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani, father of Sir Mukesh Ambani and Sir Anil Ambani. So he started company. He started company in such a way that after his death, it did not affect the going concern or the continuity of the business. Why it did not affect? The founder of the company is, passed away. Normally, in case of sole proprietorship concern, what happens? If the owner goes, along with that, the business comes to a halt. Even in partnership also, guys, if let's suppose one of the partners is the key person who's managing the business, if he goes, then the business may come to a halt. But here, in the companies, that they will not let that happen. Who will not let that happen? The separate legal entity will not let it happen. The death of a person, or if the person goes bankrupt, if any big promoter of the business or the owner of the business is going bankrupt, because of his personal bankruptcy, it should not affect the company. Imagine there's a lack of people, you and me, investing in the Reliance Limited. For example, all of us trade, like most of your parents trade in the share market. What is the share market? It's nothing but you are investing the money in the shares. That is the capital of the company. What you think is you're investing money in share market. Share market in turn invest that money where? In the capital of that organization. So technically you are the shareholders of whom? Reliance company. You are the owners and members of that company. Because of you getting affected, because of you dying, or because of you becoming insolvent, will it affect the Reliance group of companies? Or if something happens to some Mukesh Ambani, do you think the companies will get affected? Or the companies will get closed? Maybe affected to some extent, but will it be closed?
No, sir.
If it is closed, if it is affected, then what will happen to all of us who have invested in that company? So to ensure that the safety of the investors, to ensure the safety of the shareholders, this concept of separate legal entity has been introduced. This is also called as perpetual succession. I'll be discussing shortly. It is also called as perpetual succession, which means what? Members may come and go, shareholders may come and go, owners may come and go. For whatever reasons they may come and for whatever reasons they may go. But because of them going, it should not affect the business. That is the concept of separate legal entity. That is the concept of perpetual succession, which we'll be discussing again. Now, guys, in your term 1, it is totally of MCQs. It is more of MCQs. So there's very high probability that a lot of questions can be shooted from this particular chapter. So you have to concentrate a lot on the theory part, guys, because there are small, minute important points which can be targeted as MCQs. Initial 3 or 4 classes is going to be like this, guys. It's going to be full of theory. And if you go into sleep mode, trust me, I'm telling you, MCQs will be royally screwed. You'll be royally screwing up your exams. I think if I'm not wrong, 18 mark is a coverage for your MCQ from companies, share capital chapter. So there'll be a lot of, questions that will be short from the theory angle. So please pay 100% attention. Do not lose your concentration. Guys, try to have some involvement. You will definitely get through it. Next, guys, company means. Now there is a definition which is given in Companies Act 2013, which says that company means a company incorporated. Incorporated means registered under this act. Under this act means what? Under Companies Act 2013 or any previous company law. Any previous company law. Previous company law is what? Companies Act 1956. This is the definition in which is given in your Act rule book. Now we have Professor Hani, who is giving his own meaning. He says that a company is an artificial person created by law, having a separate entity with a perpetual succession and a common seal. 6 features. This particular line has got 6 features, which I am going to discuss next. Very, very important. Please highlight this point. A company is an artificial person. You know what is artificial person? Which is created by law, not by human beings. Having a separate entity. You know what is a separate entity concept? Perpetual succession. Member may come, may go, but it will not affect the continuity of the business. Business will keep on continuing. And final is common seal. Every company is known by its logo, common seal. Reliance Jio, what is it known? It is called as Jio. Jio company is ultimately owned by whom? Reliance, no? Jio is a brand from Reliance. People know through its common seal. What is the common seal of that particular company? Jio. So all the documents or all the agreements which companies entering, it has to have its common seal. When a chart accountant signs a balance sheet, a CA will have a seal, which has got certain value. Likewise, this company has also got certain values, guys. Law has told that in every document that the company is entering or signing, every agreement it is signing for the company, it has to have a seal on it, which is unique in itself. Only then the document or the agreement will be valid. So guys, now let's understand what are the various features of a company. The first point is incorporation. Incorporation means registration. I told you, company is more sort of fancy. They don't use the common language. Everywhere else, the word that is used is registered. Here, the word is incorporate. They want to sound fancy, right? A company is an artificial person created by the process of law. That is, the Companies Act either under the present Act 2013 or under any previous Companies Act. To be more precise, if you want a company, guys, just like partnership, you cannot just get up one fine day and just start with your business. You have to register the company with the government. Technically, here the MCA, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. If you want to come up with a company, you should obviously you'll come with a name. The name what you are intending to start with, the name should be available. After the name availability is being checked, then you will certain documents you have to file it. Only then the government will go through all this document, and if government feels that okay, no problem, the government will say okay, we register your company, and for that they gave a document called as certificate of registration, that is certificate of incorporation. Now the moment you register the company, that doesn't mean you can start the business. There's one more step that you have to do. After doing that step, you'll get another certificate, which is called a certificate of commencement of business. Only after getting the certificate of commencement of business, you can start your business. So you have a complete procedural aspect to fulfill in order to create a company. So incorporation is the first requirement of the company. Incorporation is equal to registration. Please make a note. Incorporation is nothing but registration. Registration of companies is mandatory, whereas registration of partnership is optional. Registration of partnership was optional. Here it is compulsory. Next point is, guys, separate legal entity. A company is an artificial person having a legal entity separate from its shareholders. Whenever you account, you'll account from the business point of view, not from the shareholders point of view. You'll account from the company's point of view. If this aspect was not there, guys, if you treat shareholder and company as same person, then whatever the shareholder is spending in his personal capacity, you will keep on accounting here also. So we don't want what that guy is doing in his personal life. We want what business is doing in professional life. That alone will be recorded. And for that, this concept was introduced. Artificial person. In the eyes of law, it is an artificial person. Law is giving a title that a company is called as a person. For us, you and me, who is a person? A human being is a person. But here, law says that even company is a person, but not natural person, it is an artificial person. In the eyes of law, it is an artificial person, which means what? As a person, guys, only as a person you can own properties in your name. If you're not a person, you cannot own the properties in your name. So why did the law give, the title of person to a company so that the companies can hold assets in their name? For example, if I want to buy any land building, It is not necessary that it has to be registered in the name of the shareholder. It can be registered in the name of a company. This building can be owned by a company. In the document property, the name can be registered by the company. How can you register the property in company's name? Because of the title artificial person given by the law. It can own property because of company being called as artificial person. It can, have property in its name. It can enter into contract because company is artificial person. So Reliance Limited is a company. So you can enter the agreement in the name of Reliance Limited itself. There's no need of Reliance, Mr. Mukesh Ambani's name in the document. So a company is capable of entering into contract on its own name. It can do the business by its name. It can sue somebody in its name. Reliance Limited can sue you. Company's got that power. And it can be sued. You can directly sue Reliance Limited. You will not, if I have some problem with some, let's say if I'm having any problem with Mr. Mukesh Ambani, I'll not sue Mr. Mukesh Ambani. I will sue his company. That is the benefit here. So company can sue or company can be sued for its debts and action. If company is doing any inappropriate actions, which is unfair to shareholders or any third party, they can take action on companies. If the company is taking debts loan, it is not repaying, the bankers or the debt, the person who is giving the loan can put a case on company, not on the person, not on the owner of the company. Guys, you are all the shareholders in Reliance Limited. If Reliance is not paying the loan, do you think that those lenders will come and attack you? You were like, "Yapa, nalla poyittu irundhen. Neenga da share trading app download panni share trade panna sonneenga. Na vandu pora pogathula share invest pannen. Vandu sue panneenga niya." So members should not be affected because of any activities of the companies. So this, the legal action to be taken in the company's name. That is the advantage of having a company. Next is perpetual existence. Perpetual. This is the point I discussed. A company has a perpetual succession. Very, very important from the theory point of view. Guys, all this 4 points, whatever we discussed, it is very important for you to understand the meaning of it. Because in MCQ, they can frame any questions and maybe they can ask you to select any one of the 4 options. If you don't know what is the meaning of each and every, line items, then how will you select the option? A company has a perpetual succession. What is the meaning of that? It means that its existence is not affected by the death of any member or a shareholder. It is not affected by lunacy. What is lunacy? Lunatic. If some owner or shareholders goes, lunatic, mad, that will not be affecting the companies. There will be several other people who will run the company. So as a shareholder, as an investor, you don't have to worry about it. The perpetual succession or the perpetual existence concept will take care of you. You don't worry. If somebody is dying, let him die. Your money is safe in the company. If somebody has become mad, don't worry. The other people who will take care of the company, your money is safe in the company. If somebody has become bankrupt, if any owner has become the bankrupt, if any promoter has become if he's become bankrupt, don't worry, your money is safe. Your money is safe. So that confidence of your money being safe, from where it is coming? It is coming from the concept of perpetual existence, which says that shareholders may come and go, members may come and go, but the company will go on forever. With that confidence only, you are investing the money in the share market, that your money is safe. So the existence of a company is not affected by death of a shareholder, lunacy of a shareholder, or a bankruptcy of its shareholder. The life of a company comes to an end only by the winding up process. If you want to really close the company, it can only come through a process of winding up. Winding up, there's a process. The way you created the company, the way you registered a company, there's a way you dissolve the company. This is called as winding up. We don't use the word dissolution here. We use the word wind up. Wind up means close the company. Khatam, finish, khalas, tata, bye-bye. This is perpetual existence. What are we discussing, guys? We're discussing what are the various features of the company, which is attracting you towards the companies, taking you away from the concept of sole proprietorship and partnership. So you've discussed 4 points so far, guys. The 5th one, limited liability. What is limited liability? If the company is unable to pay, the debts of the debts, they own debts, they will not attack the private properties of the shareholders. Guys, you are all the shareholders. You are the owners who have contributed to capital. if Reliance Limited or if any company, any other company, XYZ company, if XYZ company is unable to pay any debt, will the bankers come and seize your private properties? That is the advantage in companies, that the liability is limited. Your liability is limited to what? Your liability is limited to the value of the shares that you have taken. For example, you said that, sir, I will contribute 25 crore as capital. In that, so far you contributed only 10 crore rupees, because company said that you're agreeing to contribute 25. No, I don't want entire 25 now. I'll take 10 now. I'll take remaining 15 whenever I want. So your liability is restricted to the remaining 15 crore rupees only, because 10 crore you already given to company as capital. So your liability is further restricted to 15 more crores. That's it. Beyond that, people cannot come. And why the 15 crores people are coming up to you? Because you promised that you will invest as a capital in the company. Or at the time of becoming the owner of the company or the shareholder or the member of the company, you would have said that in case if the business is wound up and if there is any need for the money, trust me, you can count on me. I will guarantee that this much amount I'll contribute in addition to what I've contributed to the capital. I've contributed full 25 crore rupees. During the wind up, if there is any shortfall of money, I will guarantee additional 5 crore rupees. So now here, your liability is restricted or limited to the maximum liability of 5 crore rupees. Beyond that, they cannot come and seize your private properties, the way it has been done for the sole proprietorship concern and partnership concern. So the liability of its members, shareholders, is limited to the value of the shares subscribed by them. You subscribed for 25 crores capital. You said subscribe means what? You agreed to pay 25 crores as capital. In that you paid 10. Remaining 15 you have to pay. You're telling, sir, company, whenever you ask me 15 crores, I'll give you. So to the extent of what you subscribe, that is the maximum amount of liability you can enter into. Beyond that, companies will never come and ask you, and no third party can come and ask you. Or your liability, the member's liability, can be limited to the extent of guarantee. You'd have given one guarantee while becoming member. Apart from this 25 crore rupees, if there is any excess amount required, I am guaranteeing to the extent of 5 crores. But up to 5 crore rupees, you can come and count on me. So now your liability is limited to the amount of guarantee to be paid at the time of winding up. In the case of companies limited by guarantee. What is company limited by guarantee? We'll learn in the upcoming theory. However, in case of a company registered with unlimited liabilities, you have option here. When you choose your liability, by default it is limited, but you can choose the company to be unlimited liability. While registering the company, you may say that no, I'm okay with unlimited liability. Which means what? If the company is not paying the debts, you can come and attack my private properties. Like that, who's saying? Members are saying. So in case if you are registering your company as an unlimited liability, then the liability of the members will be unlimited. This is in Hindi. Ah, bell, mujhe maar. Company is not able to meet the debts. Come, attack my property. You take everything from me and go off. Will anybody do that? But in law, they're telling if you want, you can do it. Voluntarily, if you want to take up your liabilities, you can do it. I have no problem. This is the concept of limited liability. Can we take a small break and then continue?
Yes, sir.
So guys, let's continue with the session, guys. The next feature of the company is that transferability of shares. The shares of a company are freely transferable, except in case of private companies. Guys, you have contributed capital in the company. Against the capital what you contribute, you get a share of profit. If you don't want to be the owner of the company further, if you don't wish to hold the shares of that company, you can sell it, transfer that shares to somebody else and invest in some other company. That is what happens in share market. No, I invest, let's suppose 10 lakh rupees in the share market, Reliance Limited. I don't want to continue to be the member of the share of the Reliance Limited. So I sell that share to somebody else. I get that money and invest elsewhere. So in this, the beauty of the companies is that if you don't want to, or if you no longer want to, remain the shareholder of a company, you can transfer your shares, come out of it. But in private limited company, it's not that easy. The shares what you purchase in the market is, guys, that is all the public limited companies. In public limited companies, the transfer of shares is very, very easy. But in private limited company, the articles of association has to permit only upon that you can transfer it. Shares of a company are freely transferable in case of public limited company, except in case of a private companies. Transfer of shares in private companies is regulated by articles of association. In next class, I'll be discussing what is articles of association and what is memorandum of association. In precise, article of association is nothing but the rule book of the company. Companies Act 2013 is a rule book. It's a rule book for the which every company has to follow. It's a law. But articles of association, it's the company, individual company have their own rules and regulations to manage their companies. So in articles of association, you will, say that how am I going to manage certain things in my business. So it'll be specific to different companies. So about it, I'll be discussing in the next class very detailed. So are you clear with the meaning of the transferability of the shares? In public limited company, the transfer of shares is very easy. In private company, you can transfer it subject to the permission given in articles of association. If articles of association says that a private company should not transfer share, means you cannot transfer. Yes, Srikanth. I'll discuss about in 1% company, you cannot transfer at all. Next, guys, management and the ownership. A company is not managed by all the members, but by their elected representative called as directors. Now imagine, guys, there's a company called as XYZ Limited, which has got 1 lakh shareholders, which means 1 lakh people have contributed the capital. So they are called shareholders, they are called members, they are called owners. Owners normally take or manage or participate in the management of the business, which means whatever the decision making is there, all the owners together, they do it in the sole proprietorship or partnership. In companies, guys, do you think that if 1 lakh people come together and have to make a decision, can you come to a common decision at any point of time? There'll always be a conflict. If I want to appoint one person today, let's suppose I want to appoint a CFO of my company. If I want to appoint a HR of my company, if I go and take opinion from all 1 lakh people, will I be able to take timely decisions? Any meeting, when will you call for a meeting? When will those people come? When will you discuss? When will you fight? When will you come to a conclusion? 1 year will pass by. So what they're telling here is that though the members are contributing capital, though they are owners, but they'll not be the person who will make the decision of the business. They'll not be the decision makers of the business. They will elect representatives. And they'll give the powers to those representatives who will take the decisions for their companies. And those representatives are called as directors. So the directors are the person in the company, apart from being the shareholders, they are also the person who's managing the business day-to-day routine of the company. A company is not managed by all the members, but it is managed by their elected representatives called as directors. So here in companies, guys, the management is done by somebody else and the ownership of the business is with somebody else. The ownership of the business is with whom? The shareholders. And the management, the person who is managing may or may not be a shareholder. It is not necessary that the director of the company should be a shareholder. If I talk about Reliance Limited, in this case, Mr. Mukesh Ambani is the shareholder as well as the director. But in some companies, you appoint a director. It is not necessary that he has to be a shareholder. He is not willing to contribute in the capital of the company, but he is willing to be a director of the company. Are you able to follow? So the concept of manage, the person who manages the business and the ownership, here, they're two separate concepts. Are we clear? Last point is common seal. A company may or may not have a common seal. If it is having a common seal, it is affixed to all the important documents of the company. If the company is having any common seal, logo, if you're having anything for yourself, whatever the document the company is signing, whatever the agreement company is entering into, on all the papers, it has to have the common seal on it. You have to have it. So a company may or may not have. It is not compulsory to have a common seal, but generally company has a common seal. These are the features, guys. The first point is what? The first feature or the property of a company is that it has to be registered. Without registration, you cannot form a company. Second, it has a separate legal entity, which means what? The members and the business are treated as two separate, treated two individuals, and accounting is done from business point of view. Third is artificial person. Law says that company, you are artificial person. Therefore, you're capable of buying properties in your name. Then you are capable of doing business. You can sue somebody or be sued. Because of the title of artificial person, all this is happening. Fourth one, perpetual successions. Members may come and go. The shareholders may come and go, but the companies will go on forever. You are investing money in the company. You are the shareholder of a company for 10 days. After that, you're transferring the shares and investing in some other company. You are coming and going. You will keep coming and going every time. Owners will keep coming and going. Shareholders will keep coming and going. But business has to keep on going forever. So this concept is given through or given by the perpetual existence of perpetual succession. Technically, it's called as perpetual succession. And the best feature of the company is, guys, best feature of this feature is nothing but when you buy a mobile phone, you look at features, no? So when you think about forming a company, these are the features you look into. And the best feature of the company is limited liability. If the debt of a company is not, being able to pay it by the assets of the companies, it will not go up to the private properties of the owners. You will not sell the private properties of the owner to satisfy the debts of the companies. The debts of the companies will be limited to the shares what you've taken up and to the guarantee what you are given at the time of closing the company. Till that point only your liability is restricted. Next is transfer. You can transfer the shares freely. In public limited company, you can transfer it freely. In private company, you can transfer only if the permission is given by articles of association. The management and ownership both are different here. It is not necessary that every owner is the management here. Management means what? The person who manages the business. So all the shareholders together in the meeting will decide that, okay, this company will be run by Mr. Mukesh Ambani. So he'll be the management of the business. He'll be called as the director of the business. The person who directs the business, who's the main decision maker of the business. So it is not necessary that all the owners will participate in the management and all the management of the person has to be compulsory shareholder. There's no rule like that. And last one is common seal. A company, if it has got common seal, every document it is signing, it has to have the seal on it. The next point, guys, the difference between partnership and companies. A partnership, it is set up by an agreement among the partners. Partnership is coming to existence by agreement. An agreement can be either oral or in writing. If it is in writing, it is partnership deed. Agreement has to be there, but they never told that the agreement should be registered. So registration is not compulsory in partnership. Registration is not compulsory under the Indian Partnership Act 1932. Whereas company, it is set up by registration. The company comes into existence only by incorporation, registration. And that registration process is given by whom? It is given by Companies Act 2013. After 2013, if any company is incorporated, you will follow the rules that is given in 2013. There are certain companies which is coming since last 50-60 years, which means they were the company that were registered under 1956 Act, the old Act. Even those who are registered in the old Act, you are valid in the current Act also. Reliance Limited is incorporated before 2013 under 1956 Act. So still it is valid under the current Act. So a company is set up by the registration under the current Act or any previous Act. But you have to be registered. That is what is important. Second, guys, partnership is governed by Indian Partnership Act. So if you have any conflict in the partnership, the rule book that you will look up to for referring is this. Now in companies, if you have any conflict, if you have any disputes, if you have any case that was to be referred to, you will follow the rules and regulations that is given in 2013 Act. Whatever the Act says in 2013, you will follow all that. Companies Act 2013, whatever it says, that everything you have to follow. If you don't follow, if you're not complying with that, you will have to pay. You have to face the penal provisions and the legal consequences. Number of members, very important. Minimum number of members is 2 in case of a partnership concern, and maximum is 50. This is a limitation here. That's why people go up to companies. In companies, what happens? In case of public company, minimum is 7 and maximum no limit. Minimum 7, maximum is unlimited. In public companies. In private companies, minimum 2, maximum 200. In private, minimum to maximum 200. So partnership limitation is what? If I want to have more than 50 owners, I look up to private. In private, again, the maximum cap is 200. If I want to take more than 200 people as owners, then I'll look up public limited company. So why we have two options, sir? Why can't we have unlimited in private also? Because private company comes with limited compliances. The amount what you spend on compliance is limited in private. Whereas in public limited companies, the compliance is what you have to follow is huge, humongous. There's one dedicated company secretary who's appointed in the public limited company whose daily work is to comply the rules and regulations. You can imagine one person who is dedicatedly appointed to look after the compliance. So you can imagine how big will be the compliance throughout the year is working. So you can imagine the amount of work. So what is the course? Who is the company secretary? You have heard this company secretaryship course, no? CA, CS, CMA. So the person who's doing CS course, he's the person who gets appointed in a public limited company who will take care of the rules and regulations. There's so many rules and regulations. It's a huge book. So he's a person who's the master of that book, and he's the person who advises the company what rules the company should follow. So whatever we are studying is just 0.01% of what the CS is studying. Right? Okay. So in case of public limited company, minimum is 7, maximum is unlimited. In case of private company, minimum is 2, maximum is 200, excluding its present or past employee members, which means that in the private company, guys, even though employees are given stocks, shares is also called as stocks. Employees are given shares. If employees are given shares, can I see when they are shareholders? In my company, there are 50 employees. All the 50 employees, I've given them the shares. They are shareholders. Now, when you count this 200, when you count this 200, those shareholders who are my employees will be excluded. Excluding them, it should be 200. So who should be these 200 people? These 200 people should be those people, those who are not my employees. Let's suppose in my private limited company, I have 250 shareholders. In that, 200 shareholders are third party outside who is not doing any work in my company, who is not my employees. And remaining 50 are who? My employees. Now, maximum limit for a maximum, the shareholders what you can have in a company is 200. But here it's 250. How? This is a private company having shareholders 250 numbers. How 250? Because from this 250 count, I'm minusing the shareholders who are my employees. After minusing my employee shareholders, if it is up to 200, no problem. Beyond 200, not allowed. Now there are already 200 shareholders who are not my employees. Can I take one more person as a shareholder of my company who's not my employee? No. Can I take one more person as a shareholder who's my employee? Yes. So employee who's my shareholder can be taken, and they are not included in the count of 200, in the limit of 200. So this limit of 200 is applicable to that person who's not my employee. Am I clear or not clear? Online students, am I clear or not clear?
Yes, sir.
Sir, can you repeat it again, sir?
Very simple, Kana. I want to have 250 people as my shareholder in a private limited company. Can I do that or not? If all these 250 people are private people, those who are not employees, then you cannot have it, because the maximum upper limit is 200. But you say that out of this 250, 200 are external people and 50 are within the organization as employee. Then definitely you can have the 250 people as the shareholders. So from when you count this 200 people, you would exclude 2 people. One is employee who's currently working with you, or one ex-employee. There could be some people to whom you have given the shares, but he's no longer the employee. He's the past employee, ex-employee. So in the count of this 200, when you count this 200, you have to exclude 2 employees. One present employee, one is past employee. So after excluding the present employee shareholder and past employee shareholder, now check the count. If it is up to 200, allowed. Beyond 200, not allowed. Now, Brinda, are you clear?
Sir, yes, sir. Sir, even ex-employees will be included.
Ex-employees, okay. Ex-employees will not be counted for this 200.
Sir, if they'll be counted if they're getting a share after their retirement.
For example, there are 260 shareholders. Yeah. These are the 10 employees who became the shareholder of my company when they were working for my company. After that, they left my company. Can I say these are the ex-employees?
Sir, yes, sir.
And can I call them as ex-shareholders?
Yes, sir.
And these are the 50 employees who are still currently working in my company. So can I say these are my employee shareholders?
Yes, sir.
And these 200 people are totally third parties, those who are not my employees at all. So now total 260 members are there. Now can these 260 members allowed to be the shareholders of my private company? Yes, because the upper limit is 200. When I counted 200, I eliminated two people. One is my continued employee shareholders, and one is my ex-employed shareholders. These two will not be taken into consideration. Eliminate these people from this 260. You need to eliminate 50 who's my current employee shareholder and 10 ex-employee shareholder. If the remaining is coming within 200, then allowed. Now are you clear, Brinda? So these two people are excluded from counting the limit of 200 rupees, 200 members. Next is, guys, one-person company. One-person company will have only one member. You cannot have more than one member. Only one shareholder is allowed. Why it is like that, we'll discuss in the next class. Liability. The liability of the partners is unlimited and is jointly and severally. One is unlimited and all the partners have to jointly share it. It's not that one partner alone will bear all the remaining liabilities. It is all the remaining partners jointly and severally. If you remember, guys, I asked you a question. What is the liability of a partners? And I told you that this is the line you have to mention. This is the complete line if you have to mention. If it is a theory question asked, the liability of the partners in a partnership concern is unlimited and is jointly and severally. These two words are very important. Unlimited plus jointly and severally liable. Both or all the partners are together jointly liable. Whereas in companies, liability of the members is limited to the amount of share, that is amount of capital what they've contributed, or the amount of guarantee what they're giving in the case of winding up of the business, which I discussed now. However, in case of companies with unlimited liability, they can be unlimited liability. We discussed this point. Are we clear with this? Next is distribution of profit. Profit is distributed as per the terms of partnership deed, or equally if the partnership deed does not exist. Nothing new. In partnership, you distribute the profit sharing ratio as per what you've agreed in the partnership deed. If partnership deed is absent, you distribute equally. Whereas in here, it depends on articles of association. Profit distribution depends on articles of association. It's a rule book. It's a rule book. You know, the rules that is being framed and that is to be followed for the internal management of the company. It depends on the articles of association or the directors as to what share of profit, that is the dividend. I told you it is the word that is used here is dividend, not profit. So it is up to the directors and the rule book to decide whether should I give the dividend or not. Just because all of you invested capital in the business, just because you hold 25% share in the company or 10% share in the company, that does not give you authority to claim the demand, to claim the dividend, to claim the profit. The company feels that this year they should not give you any profits, you will not get a single penny. Now you may say that, sir, then profits, what will company do? Company will retain the profits. Why? To reinvest that money for the development of the business. So there's no guarantee that if you invest capital in the company, you will definitely get the share of profit or dividend. You are the percentage holder, no doubt in it. But the amount of profit to be given, that will be in hands of directors and the basically companies. Company can decide whether they want to give the distribute the profit or not. So it depends on article. In articles of association, they'll mention what is the percentage, who has the authority, when should we give, when should we not give. All that rules and regulations will be given in AOA, and the directors may take the call depending on the situation of the company. Now there's a COVID period. The company feels that whatever the profits the companies earn, it is better to keep it as a reserve and not distribute, because they might need that money in future. So the directors may decide that this year company is not allowing to give any dividend, and the shareholders have to agree. They cannot go and fight and say that no, you have to give me dividend. I am the shareholder. How can you decide? Because you have elected the director who will make the decision for the company, and he has made a decision that you will not get dividend, and you will not give dividend. So it depends on the articles of association or the directors as to what will be the share of profit, that is dividend, also to be approved by the shareholders. Now what happens is, now the directors saying that we are proposing 10% as the share of profit, which is dividend. Now this 10%, after director declares it, it has to be approved by the shareholder. I'll be discussing that process with you in the upcoming classes. The director will say, propose, okay, we propose to, give 10% as profits as dividends this year, to which shareholders has to agree. Now, shareholders, either they can agree with 10%, or shareholders can say, no, let's just keep it 8%. So shareholders has the power to approve this 10% or reduce the percentage, but they cannot increase it. But 100%, if the dividend is going to be declared, shareholders have to approve. There's no doubt in it. That is the beauty here. Because you are also the person who is contributed capital. So you should be consulted at least once in a year. See, entire year, who's making decisions? Directors are making decisions. For at least certain points, certain important points, you have to tell me as a shareholder. So there is a AGM that is being conducted every year, annual general meeting. In that meeting, people invite all the shareholders. They tell that during the year, this is what we have done the business. These are the important decisions we have taken. They inform you, After you are the person who's contributed capital, you should be informed what company is doing. So there are certain decisions in the AGM which the companies will, give the authority to the shareholders to take. One such decision is dividend. Like that, there are the other decisions which the shareholders can vote. Through voting, guys, decision can be taken. Majority people, 2/3. So if you are all investing in Reliance company, and if Reliance is conducting AGM, you can very well travel to Bombay, take a part in that AGM, and vote your thing. They might give you certain proposals in the meeting, for which you can say yes or no, agree or disagree. So that little power, respect you have got as a shareholder. Yes, are you able to follow? So dividend is distributed as per the partnership deed in partnership consent, whereas here it is depending on the AOI and the director. Director says give, no means no. But if director says to give 10%, then you cannot just give 10% like that. You have to get approval from the shareholders. So there are two level. One is the director level, second is the shareholder level. Am I clear with it? The shareholders can agree for 10% or decrease the percentage of the profit, but cannot increase it. What does this 10% means? Whatever the profit is there now, whatever the profit is earned, 10% of the profit can be given as dividend. Let's suppose the total profit for the year is 10 lakh rupees. In that 10%, we want to give as dividend, which is 1 lakh rupees. Now this 1 lakh rupees will be given to you in the percentage of the shareholding what you have. This 1 lakh, let's suppose Bala Sarvesh holding 25% of the shares. So 25% of this 1 lakh will be given to Bala Sarvesh as dividend. Let's suppose Snehal is holding 15% as the shareholding, which means he has contributed 15% of capital. So now 15% of this profit, what has been proposed, in that Snehal will get his share of dividend. So from the total profit, they will first derive the percentage of profit, how much is to be distributed first. Once you finalize that amount, depending on the shareholding what you have, depending on the percentage of shareholding what you have, the profits will be distributed. Online students, any doubts with this?
No, sir.
Next, audit. Audit means checking of the accounts. Audit of the books of accounts is not mandatory. In partnership, did you study anywhere that the auditing is done by whom? Chartered accountants. CAs are appointed to check whether everything what they have prepared in accounts is correct or not correct. The process of checking accounts is called as auditing. In partnership, it is not mandatory, but in companies, 100% mandatory. Whether you can say that, sir, I did not start my business is less, I'm having less profits. Whatever is your profit, whatever is your turnover, they don't care. Law says audit means audit. Audit of the books is mandatory. It is immaterial what is your turnover. It is immaterial what is your profit. It is immaterial whether you started the business or not. Audit means audit. Law says that you have to appoint a CA who has to audit the accounts. He has to sign the balance sheet. Means he has to sign it. Next, management. Business may be managed by all the partners or any one of them acting for all. If there are 3 partners, all the 3 does not want to manage business, the 2 people will say, "Macha, nee manage paniko." So they can give the responsibility to one person. Whereas in companies, business is managed by the directors who are elected by the shareholders. Shareholders do not manage the business. They elect one person who will in turn manage the business. Transfer of shares. A partner cannot transfer his share to any other person without the consent of other partners. If I want to admit any partner, which means what? When you admit a partner, you give your share of profit to somebody else. You sacrifice your profit in favor of somebody else. So in admission, can I say all the partners' approval is required? You studied that. When you admit a partner, all the partners agree. So if you want to transfer your share to somebody else, that is, if you want to admit somebody else, you have to all the partners has to agree. Whereas in companies, in public limited company, if I want to transfer my share to somebody else, I don't have to ask anybody. I can transfer freely. Free transferability is there in public companies, but in private companies, what happens? It is restricted as per the rules that is agreed in articles of association. Business, a partnership can carry on business if all the partners agree. If there is any new business that has been proposed, then everybody has to agree for it. Whereas in companies, a company can carry on only that business which is permitted by the object clause of memorandum of association. I told you I'll be discussing about MOA and AOA in the next class. Memorandum of association is a document that you would submit while you register the company. And when you register the company, you have to mention what is the purpose for which you're starting the company. And you will stick on to only that purpose. For example, if I'm registering my company as an education company, so I will say that I will be giving the offline teaching, online teaching, and with regard to teaching, if I write any books, all related to that, I'll carry only that activities. And suddenly, if I want to start another business of, let's say, buying and selling, steel items. If I want to become a trader of steel, I cannot do that. If I want to do that, you have to go and amend the object clause of MOA. Only then you can do that business. So are you able to see the restrictions, the compliances which is placed in the companies? So like that, there's so many compliances restrictions. That's why not everybody start business as a company. People sometimes they prefer that it's okay to be sole proprietorship because the compliance is too much in companies. So people sometimes are okay with sole proprietorship concern or partnership concern. People, those who are okay to do hell a lot of compliances, they go with companies. A lot of people, guys, you'll not believe, of late they have this concept of startups. No, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, right, left, and center, have started opening their companies without understanding the significance of the companies. They have not complied their rules and regulations. They have not filed the returns which is supposed to be filed by to the ROC or the income tax or to the GST, and they've gone to an extent that the director is being disqualified to become the director of any company. In future, whatever you start, you cannot start a company in your name. To that extent, the penal provisions and the legal consequences are. So when you start a company, guys, you have to be very sure, are you in position to do the compliance of the companies or not? Next is winding up. A partnership may be wound up by an agreement or by an order of court. All the three partners can decide, we want to close the company, close the firm. If the agreement says that on this date firm has to be closed, close it. The company says that upon completing this venture or business is accomplished, close means close. Or if court order is to close, close. In case of firm is unable to pay debts, the Insolvency Act will apply. Therefore, you close the business. Whereas in company, a company can be wound up only by carrying out the process as prescribed in Companies Act 2013. There's a complete process. How the winding up process should be initiated. Who should initiate it? What are the certain steps that has to be done by the companies? Only then, after that, the winding up process will be initiated. There's a whole lot of compliance that has to be done. It's not that easy as it is for sole proprietorship or partnership. Finally, the stability of the business. It is affected by the death, retirement, and the insolvency of the partner. If there are two partners, one died, can the remaining one continue the business? The two partners, one has become insolvent or lunatic. Can you continue the business? No. Yes, boss.
Excuse me, sir, can you please?
Sorry, your voice is breaking now.
Sir, can you please admit the device, sir?
Oh, one second.
Ask for a request.
There's no person participant here in the waiting room.
I'll just rejoin, sir. 1 second.
Done. Next, guys. Next is shareholders' death, insolvency, or transfer of share does not affect the continuity of the business. In partnership, it can affect, but here it doesn't affect. Whoever wants to come. Whoever wants to go. On rotation basis, the company's activity will keep on going. You're transferring to share to her. No, she is the member. With her, I'll continue. Yes, are you able to follow? So these are the difference between companies and partnership. So all the points which is mentioned in companies, you have to be crystal clear and thorough, because from MCQ's point of view, anywhere and everywhere you can get a question. Everything what we discussed, we have discussed a lot of points today, guys, not 1 or 2 points. We've discussed umpteen points, and all the points are equally qualified to be asked as MCQ question. I can create almost 20 to 30 MCQ question out of this 2.5 chapters, 2.5 pages what I've taken for you. So imagine the depth and the the value of these theory what you've studied today. So guys, before you come to the next class, please just go through these 2.5 pages. Trust me, you'll be very comfortable. It's very easy, guys. It's not a rocket science. It's purely simple. It's just a matter of you getting used to it. That's it. Guys, any other queries, please? Online students, any queries for the day?
Sir, I have a doubt, sir.
Yes, boss.
Sir, there can be more than one director, sir, in the company.
100%. So how many directors could be there? We'll be discussing in the upcoming class.
Okay, sir.
Anything else? Guys, anything else? Offline students, anything else? Online students, any doubts? No doubts?
No doubt, sir.
That's great.
No,
Others?
sir.
No, sir.
Others?
No, sir.
So guys, that's all from my end for this class, guys. And all the viewers, those who are watching on YouTube, if you like the videos, guys, please like the video, and please subscribe my YouTube channel. And guys, if you really like the videos, please share to the maximum people, and do share your feedbacks in the comment section, guys. Yes. So that's all from my side, guys. I'll see you in the next class. Until then, bye bye. See you. Take care.